All right, when we're looking at this video, a few of you guys made some really good points, but I just wanted to make sure everyone is clear. Um, we have a couple things going on here. We have a function, which is our f of x. I'm going to kind of piece this out a little bit. So f of x is equal to x squared minus 6x plus 5. So that's a function. And that should look really familiar. There's lots of different things that we can do with a function. A lot of vocab words you might hear. So we can graph the function. We can evaluate the function. Let's see, we recognize that this is x squared, so we know that this is a quadratic function. So we know that the graph of this thing is going to look some sort of parabola. Okay, so those are some different things that we could do. When I say evaluate, by the way, that's like plugging in a number. So we can evaluate this function when x is equal to like 0. You can plug a 0 in. So we could find f of 0 is equal to 0 squared minus 6 times 0 plus 5, which will be 0, 0, 5. So we know that f of 0 equals 5. So again, those are a few things we can do with functions, and that's where we really started our class. The next thing that we've been working on is expressions. And normally what we do when we have expressions, which is just that middle part, x squared minus 6x plus 5. Normally we simplify expressions. That means like we combine like terms, that sort of thing. We can also factor an expression, which is really what we were working on at the beginning of our class. So if I asked you to factor this expression, we could. And there's a few different ways to do that. I noticed that it has x squared here. So if I go and I start writing my parentheses, I know it's going to be x and x. And then remember, we want to multiply to a positive 5. The only things that do that are 5 and 1. We have to add to negative 6, so it would be negative 5 and negative 1. So we have just factored, which again, that means to write as a product. Now, we have not simplified the expression. This does not mean to simplify the expression. We have factored it. If we were kind of given the reverse way, if we were given this factored form, we could simplify that by multiplying it out. But factoring is not simplifying, just to clarify that. The other thing that we have going on here is an equation. And that's when we throw the equal sign in there. So again, if you look at the very top, even though you see an equal sign, this was not an equation necessarily. It's really just the function. It's telling you the name of the function is f of x. So the equation part is when we have an expression equal to something. And for expressions, we want to, for equations, we want to solve those. And so when we say solve, we want to find the x, or whatever variable that we have there, find x, that makes the equation true. In this case, we have our equation here equal to 0, so we want to find the x that makes this 0. So since this is a quadratic equation, we've been learning how to solve quadratics. A few different things you could do is use quadratic formula. You can complete the square. I would always try factoring, and we already factored the expression up above. So if I write this as x minus 5 times x minus 1 equal to 0, the product property says that that means that x minus 5 is 0, or x minus 1 has to be 0. So we get that x is equal to 5, or x is equal to 1. These are the x values that if I go back, and you should check it, but if I go back and plug this in for those x values, it should become a 0. The expression value would be 0. And same thing for x equals 1. So I have just solved the equation. So that's what we've been working on the past couple weeks. I just wanted to clarify. So again, this was like kind of our first part of our class with all of our graphing. This was more the second part of our class, which we were all talking about like simplifying expressions, and we did this with radicals, and we multiplied, and we dealt with exponents, lots of fun things there. And then now we're looking at equations, and at this point you should be able to solve lots of different types of equations. We have linear equations, absolute value equations, quadratic equations, and we're working on radical equations right now. So, hope that helped clarify some things. Keep working hard.